Earn your BCom with a business degree program that gives you the time to decide and the time to specialize. Our programs range from fashion to finance, management to marketing, or human resources to healthcare. Take 2 years to decide which career is right for you, and then get down to business with work-integrated learning experiences that give you the employability skills employers value and reward. Apply now at humber.ca/business.
Blog Talk Radio.
Absolutely. We all seen the events unfold on television, and we've been watching it for the last, since June-July area of Caylee Anthony. I did a program over a month and a half ago with Darkness Radio and Dave Schrader, who's been on Paranormal State. He brought on detectives and certain police officers for different cases that I was to help out in during the remote viewing of that program, Caylee Anthony being one of them. The points I can go over with you guys that were actually spoke up on to the radio program that's in archive. Okay. I can go over point 13, which says, I see water and the large roadway, and the traffic's right there, and the letters OC in the park in the wooded area, or OC being Orange County, and the park in the wooded area. Ties in with point 17, and point 17 says, again, I come to a park area and I see the fence that is like a chain link fence. And if you watched on MSNBC or Fox, they showed the chain link fence on the side of the road, and then it comes and it says, it goes only so far and then it stops, and there's a gap and ending, and it leads to the wooded area. Well, that's the exact area where they found Caylee. Now, this being so close to home, I mentioned was a residential area, all these different points that are on there. I don't want to give away too much because there was a lot that was off air that went to the police, right, and on air that was, given to the public. Okay. I mentioned that they should go back and check her statements because, in conclusion, she has stepped on her own feet. The brother, they should go after the brother. He's part of this in a big way. There was 2 sites. What spurred all this too was Dave called me up and we were talking, and I said, did you see the article? And he had the article in hand and he was reading it, and inside of it said there was a shallow grave they found, and they thought it to be of Caylee Anthony. And I said in one of the points that a piece of jewelry will be found within the shallow grave. There'll be something that fell that will be reminiscent or belonging to. And sure enough, they found a little cross with beads inside the first part of it. So her being transferred from one area to another, and this will all come out in light of. So this was all subsequently submitted to the police that time ago, and we have to realize they were just underwater not too long ago, and that area was cut off and quarantined off and what have you. And if you Googled Earth and you took a look at the picture, exactly where I was talking, that's where she was. So, and one thing of working cases like this, you become very distraught because you want to bring people home alive and not that of the other. And seeing that where we were going with this, the perpetrator is right where she belongs.
And it's especially hard, too, when you're dealing with death of children.
Absolutely.
Being a father, I could totally understand, or I should say I would never be able to understand because I would never want that to happen, but I can only imagine what these people are going through, with the death of this little girl. And did you do your investigation through, would you say, your psychic senses, or did you primarily remote view that?
I've always often been asked this type of question, and I look at it in this way. Out of body experience is part of remote viewing. You have to take yourself from the then and now and place yourself into the criminal profiling. Right. And I've done that for 17 years, putting myself into the criminal's eyes and into the victim's eyes. The psyche of an individual is all tied into that. So we label things as humans as clairvoyant, clairdescent, and all these different terms we give each other. Mm-hmm. But when we take a look at the real psyche of an individual who can do something or move themselves in this way, the terms don't belong anymore. They just don't. It's just the ability to. And so taking myself from a picture, looking at this beautiful girl, and putting myself into situations where I'm looking through the mindset of the the monster. So I do a criminal profile, and then I put myself into the victim's shoes, and I find what's going on. And here we are. There's points on here that I was talking about that now they're bringing out on the news now. And this was about a month and a half ago. I was talking about how she wanted to drug the child, and because of going out, and there's social ramifications of not being with certain people and all this, and it's all on the different points and people named and what have you. But yeah, that's what you do. And another case too that was very poignant was the murder of Caesar Ivan Cano in Kentucky. Little 4-year-old little boy. I got the call last June, just before Canada Day, and I had a picture again. Did remote viewing in talking in present time, talking in post and beyond of what was going to happen. So I was seeing all this through the little boy, and I was making a promise to him I would bring him home, and seeing the stadium lights as he showed me. So I was doing automatic hand drawing, and everybody can go to robbiethomas.net and you can click on the case. It's there. So it's a good example of what remote viewing is, and automatic hand drawing and the psychic ability. And so I'm drawing these stadium lights, like off, and I ask for a name, and he gives me John. So I write John down, and if you stood on the murderer's front porch and you looked straight through ahead of the clearing, you would see Papa John Stadium was right there. I asked him for a name. I said, give me his first name. So he gives me his name, Cecil. So I write Cecil, and I put an arrow down to his head. The flashpoints of getting this quick through a 4-year-old's little mindset, it's very difficult at times because it comes in really quick. And I asked for the second name, and it came in as Eugen. And with an accent, hearing things, Eugen would be Eugene. And so his name was Cecil Eugene New. He ended up getting caught December 6th of 2007 and is on death row now for being the perpetrator of this little boy. So that's remote viewing, and that's automatic hand drawing.
That's absolutely amazing that you can be that accurate. Would you say that the common person can develop these skills, or is it somewhat, an extra sensory ability that only a select few have?
In 17 years of doing this with police and families, 31 years in the paranormal, I look at it as the essence of myself personally. I grew into it. I had to find the foundations, knowing what was right, why was I being shown all this, and what have you. Now I see often classes, people offering classes to teach people. You can't teach somebody what's already theirs. Right. The intuition is there. It's the acceptance variable that they have to have. If one is not acceptant of this gift, there's only what we classify people as, say, having intuition, people having a certain psychic ability. I look at that as all, again, labeling from different humanistic ways. Right. Everybody has intuition. There are people who have more, who see more, who can do more. It's not a race. It's not something that can be learned to get a diploma. It's the evaluation of oneself, the being of you. That's where the premise comes from. All the tools are etched in your soul. This is where it comes from. Now, that might be something where people say, oh, I can teach it. Well, you may be able to relate your experiences to people, but people's experiences are totally different or indifferent than yours.
So when did you first discover, for those that don't know, that you had something special, and where you said to yourself, I really want to investigate this and see where it takes me?
We can go right back to age 3. I've spoken often on many different shows about this. And we did a media blitz, well, my family did, when I turned 28.
Right.
And age 3, I used to say to my mother, I know I have a sister out there. Either I'm adopted or I have a sister out there. And what happened was my mother had a child out of wedlock. Being Roman Catholic, very strict, the church took the baby and gave the baby up for adoption. My mother meets my father many years later, marries him, and has me. Everything's hush-hush. Then you have this child running around, age 3, saying, I know I'm adopted, or I have a sister out there. I just know it. And she would say, Ronnie's doing it again. And at that, my father would say, get in here, Robbie, and leave her alone. And it was all kept hush-hush. Well, I'll bring you fast forward to age 28. the night before my mother passed, I had a vision, and it told me exactly what was to happen, and I'd be taken care of. And I call them the Council of God. A lot of people call them the Illuminati or the Four Horsemen. Right. And they are the ones who deliver messages that are pertinent to be told. So when I was shown this, the next morning I went over to my mother's, and I told her in the kitchen, I usually go over there every day to have a coffee or, toast or whatever. And I made mention of the fact that I had this vision. I was compelled to tell her that this story that was laid out before me, and she turned and looked directly through me. She didn't look at me, she looked directly through me, told me to go home and that she would call me in an hour. So I had that push-pull factor. We all get in that scenario sometimes when we know something's up intuitionally. Yeah, exactly. And we don't want to leave, but we have to leave, and there's something wrong and it's bugging us. Well, I left. I was in like a catatonic state, let's say, of denial. And I'm at home, and I'm sitting with my best friend and my wife now in the kitchen, and the phone rings. It's my father, and he's screaming at the top of his lungs, "It's your mother, it's your mother." We raced over, and there they brought her out on the gurney, and one guy was on top of her doing CPR. I remember her little purple socks. You remember all these little intricate things. Yes. And after we went through the whole episode of the burial and what have you, and remorse time, and we're sitting there. My family pulls me aside and says, after all these years, you were right. You do have a sister. And they introduced me to my sister, and we did a big radio blitz, media blitz, and so we documented it all the way back to age 3.
That is absolutely amazing.
I just wanted to ask you something. Is there anything that you do that helps, ease the pain? Because I know a lot of these visions, you must feel what they're feeling or see what they're seeing. Does it have any effect on you, or? Well, yeah. Obviously it does, but how would you deal with those issues?
That's
seems like you're handling them pretty good, but yeah.
That's a great question. Over the years I had to, succumb to know what's the difference between my own reality and the reality of others. And I have to separate that. I have to become cold. I went through to be a police officer twice, and once I was too young and they told me to come back, but I was hired on until they found my age. And then I got hired on once more, and then I found a guy dead, and he spoke to me and told me not to bring him back. So then I actually, my very first movie I was in was police officers and firefighters who quit under duress, but I wasn't under stress. I just wanted to serve differently. And so this is where I am now today. And, the question you asked was very, very poignant, and I like that.
Thanks.
I pray a lot to God every night. I pray for everyone. And I love people, no matter who you are. I love people, and that's where I draw my strength from. And God gives it to me, and to you, and to everybody. Only what you're allowed to handle during a day. Offer up what you can't handle. It's not for yours to take. So those are strong words that came from God in Spirit. It's been written in Scripture and what have you. Many different religions, many different teachings as well. So, I sit there and I look at this, and that's where I draw my strength from. I take a look at the fact that tomorrow's another day and we get another bad guy off the street. Putting myself into the shoes of someone being murdered and looking at 7 children who burned in a fire with 3 adults in Bardstown, Kentucky. When I got called, I flew down to Kentucky, and I was helping the family out. Very distraught, very, very much pain. But then you learn to separate that. But I'll tell you the truth. Every night, often, and it doesn't go without a night going by that I don't wake up and I talk to my wife and I say, only if I would have done it this way, or maybe if I would have got the information a little more differently this way, we could have prevented this. And there's nothing you can do. You're only given what you're supposed to have.
Yeah, exactly. Wow.
Well, can you go into detail about your most memorable case, one that really, without a doubt, sticks out to you, and every time you think about it, it just makes you step back and say, wow, that's just unbelievable, even in your stance?
Yeah, I can go over a couple of cases. Sometimes we're not to intervene on a higher power because it's already determined that this person's going home or not. And, a lot of people say, well, that's called destiny, and we don't believe in destiny, but it's not up for us to judge. We're here to live our lives and don't point fingers.
Right.
I learned that a long time ago as well and written them in my books. What we do is we look at the Kelsey Smith case in Kansas. It was on CNN, Fox, where she was coming out of the mall, and the perpetrator followed her out and took her to a wooded area, and they found her body less than like a couple hours later. I got the phone call from Kansas, from Atchison Globe, a lady by the name of Laura Moon. And Laura Moon, being a good friend of mine and a radio host, she works for the newspaper, was in tangent with the police, and they asked me to help immediately, and I said, she's not far from the border. She's still on the border in a wooded area. You got to act now. And, you know, getting that sense of urgency. And if you can take yourself when you're excited, when you're a kid getting a toy for Christmas, you just take that and just multiply it by 1,000, but under the urgency factor. And we have obviously found her body, and she was passed away. Most memorable also would be my very first case. This individual I seen, and he was all black. And I know when I see people who have black around them, there's bad that's tied to them. And so, this being my first case, and I tell everybody, every show I do, please don't do this. Don't think you're the next detective or the next, big psychic out there, because you're just going to get hurt. Right. I did a very stupid move, and this is what I did to start my career. I put myself in harm's way. I knew the superintendent of this building. I wanted to know what was up with this guy, and I was kind of nosy and curious at the same time. And we got into his apartment. Little did I know that he was part of a team that murdered Mark Campbell. And then when I started listening to his story, he starts to tell me that he was one of the guys ripping off a car stereo across the way. Mark Campbell and his family moved from Quebec to Ontario. Started a new life. He was 14 years of age. He was working the gas station late at night. Thomas Cook was the individual who pulled the trigger. Brad Anderson was his cohort. He went across the way to get the money. Thomas took out the gun and started shooting Mark and murdered him. And Brad was just as guilty being there for not stopping this. I remember sitting in his apartment and him telling me everything, and then filling me up for a wire, and his girlfriend pacing back and forth and telling him to shut up and stop. And if you can picture a miniature Eddie Van Halen, this is what the guy looked like. Eddie Van Halen sawed off at 5'0". And sitting there, and we're drinking a couple beers, and we're trying to socialize. I wanted to get all this information from him, and so I knew the path they ran. He told me, I'm going to get off on a technicality, and as we were leaving, he was going to shut the door. He told me that if I told anybody, he would kill me. And so words were exchanged and what have you, and not on good terms. And I went back and talked to the commissioner and the detectives, and they wanted me to go back and wear a wire, and I told him I can't, because he just felt me up for a wire. He knows the gig is up. Right. And I told him the story, and sure enough, he got off on a technicality from the family protecting him. But I always tell people, like I told him, karma's going to come back and kick you in the butt, and I used a different word, and I said it to Thomas, and Thomas actually murdered again, and he's in jail now for life. And Brad, he's going to get his day, and he knows. I know he knows. I'll talk about him on every show. I'm not going to let up until that guy goes to jail.
Well, that's something I want to talk to you about too, because you're such an extraordinary person. You must have a lot of negative energy coming towards you too. Like, I'm not sure what your take is on the psychic vampires. Do you feel that energy as well, positive or negative, or can you just shield it off because you have a way of dealing with that kind of thing?
Yeah, I look at that as all, and I'll be honest, true nonsense. Now people are going to shake their heads and again at me, but if we live in reality and take Hollywood wish-wash out of the question and send it aside, you only give power to what you want to take over or empower you. So, if you lend credence to something, then your belief system is already established, and you've got the foundation for letting people render you useless. So, in other words, you are your own being. Nobody can vamp you. Nobody can take your energy, or whatever these people call it. You can't sit there and allow this to happen. If this was so, and I'm gonna turn the tide here on this question so you can see what I'm talking about. Okay. There's many people out there say that I was listening to a show. A lady said she was an alien, and that she heals planets, and that she heals people, and she goes and sees these atrocities and stuff. My question was, well, why don't you stop them? If you see it before it happens, why don't you stop it?
Right.
Why can't you do it properly? And my gosh, it's a carnival atmosphere out there, and there's too many people coming and saying this stuff. If it was real, then why aren't these people the ones working on these murder cases and missing people cases? Why aren't they the ones who are doing this? And they're not. People, please give credence and true value to your own self. That's all you have to do.
That's a very good point.
I was just wondering, have you ever worked in tandem with any other remote viewers, or do you do these things mostly by yourself? Do you feel more comfortable that way, or do you think it would possibly maybe increase the chances if you felt comfortable working with another remote viewer, maybe? Or
I have in the past, and I'll give you a good example. Dateline did a show, and they wanted me to go down to Colorado and do this program. They were after me big time on the Paige Bergfeld case in Colorado. Mother by day, hooker by night, and it's a very sad case. I worked with a retired police officer, Cliff Christ, and then the last name is spelled like Christ, but it's pronounced Christ, and a few others. I took them up to an area in Colorado where nobody would go for hiking. It's really far out remote, and everything that I got on automatic hand drawing, and the area, we found a woman's top. So we found the woman's top. It was part of the clothing that she would have worn, and Dateline wanted me to come up and finish this up. We had the big snowfall there, and it piled up everything, so we couldn't finish doing what we're doing. Go back now, before this all happened, there was a remote viewer who said they were a remote viewer, and they had the family for over a year going in the wrong direction and going to some place where there was just nothing ever found of anything. The family was distraught. A lot of people got upset, and it makes it where who's real and who's not. And again, I asked that question after seeing this and then bringing them to the right area. Well, the area in question where we were talking about, the police were actually going to search that area. And so Dateline immediately put the show on TV saying, to the chief police who was there, or the detective on case, I'm sorry, and asked them about the mechanic, which I brought up his name and told them who was the #1 suspect and should be looked at. And his face turned 3 shades of red on TV, and I know he knew that they got information from somewhere other than, because the police weren't giving anything out. And he still is the #1 suspect, and this case will be, hopefully solved soon.
Wow.
I'm sorry, did they ever contact you for information on Stephen Fawcett by chance, or was that something you just didn't want to get involved with?
No, I get phone calls from a lot of people, family members and stuff, like Trenton Duckett case in Florida. Many different cases. I only work through police and family that tie me into the police. I have letters from people, can you please find this person, and then the office goes through the strenuous way of finding out who are you attached to them. They say, no, I'm just a person, just want to know about it. There's legalities, and there's certain things we have to follow, procedure, and people don't realize that, and you can put yourself in a lot of hot water. So that's why I only work through police and family who are tied with police.
Totally understood.
Yep.
Well, I know you wanted to talk about your movies and books and major events coming up. If you wanted to go into detail about
password?
Something that is certainly a pet project of yours, Paracon, 2009.
Yeah, absolutely.
Not going through.
We got somebody else there?
Yeah, it seems like there's some interference going on here.
Okay. I'm sorry, I couldn't really understand the question.
Oh, I just wanted to let everyone know that you have some other major announcements as well, books, movies, and speaking engagements, and I wonder if you can go into detail about those.
Oh, absolutely. Paracon2009.com. Please, folks, check that out. It's North America's baby. It's really the Canadian-American. We're tying it in, bringing it home to Canada. Done a lot of work in the United States, and a lot of them said to me, why don't you bring it home? So I am. I'm bringing it home, and I'm bringing all of them. I'm bringing Dave Schrader, who starred on Paranormal State, and Brian Harnois, who's the star of Ghost Hunters International. And me and Brian have a breaking news coming up here very shortly. I'll talk in the show with you. Keith Age, star of Spooked and Children of the Grave, The Possessed on the Sci-Fi Channel. Him and I have something coming up shortly as well. Patrick Burns, Haunting Evidence from True TV. He'll be here as well. We'll have Tony and Deborah Pickman from the Sallie House, the infamous home in Kansas. We have Kate Kingston from SOPS, and also she starred on Creepy Canada. We have SOPS, Stephen Jenner, who's going to come down from Burlington. He's the founder of SOPS. He's also going to be a co-producer of the new movie we're shooting in Maryland coming up in February, The Henryton, and I'll get into that with you guys. Bill Bean, author of Dark Force, will be here. Michael Esposito, who co-starred with me in Dead Whisper, and also Robbie Thomas visits the Sallie House. He is the only EVP specialist in the world that I know has been signed to a record deal. He used to work with the PSYOPs in the American Army and developed a lot of different frequency applications. He'll be here as well. Tim Yancey, who wrote the book about the Amityville Horror, who was real good friends with George Lutz. He will be here with his wife Trish from Encounters Radio. We got a stunning lineup, and we have Michigan's very own Stephen Rabel. He's a cool dude. He's representing Michigan, the other side of the border, and so we've got pretty much everybody situated. We got Ghostly Talk Radio coming in from Michigan. The Space Channel is going to cover this. A Channel is going to cover this. CTV is going to cover this. We got a lot of major networks covering. We've got people coming from Australia, from England, and America, of course. So this is a big event. It's huge. And check out Paracon2009.com. Get your tickets. They're not going to last. And also, we want to put out that there's a special VIP night. And there's only going to be a limited number of tickets available to sit with all these celebrities from TV and discuss and share stories and have a little private party. So those of you who buy your Paracon tickets, get a hold of my office, and you can purchase your VIP tickets as well. A great 3-day venue. It's going to be fantastic. August 5th, 6th, and 7th. Check that out, folks.
Definitely don't want to miss that, because especially, too, being such a big event, I mean, this is going to really pick up, the exposure of the paranormal in mainstream media as well.
Absolutely. We've done already commercials 6 months ago on CTV across Canada about this. The A Channel's covered it. There's a lot that's going on, so it's really huge. We've got delegates coming. The mayor of Sarnia will be here. Different integral individuals. So it's going to be a great show.
It's absolutely amazing. I'm definitely going to go, and I know my co-host here, Derek, and I are really looking forward to this, because it's a great way to network and rub elbows with a lot of the key players, and
absolutely.
For us especially, we're pretty much a grassroots company, and we're on the verge of trying to get to that next level, and this will definitely help out in a lot of ways. Also, wanted to find out from you, what is your sense from your insight of 2009? Is it going to be as rough of a year as 2008, or is there even worse times to come?
No, I think a lot of premise of everybody and their woe is bad times. I did an article in investukpublishing.com. I've been on the cover for 2 years. It's the longest anybody's been on the cover of any magazine. And they did predictions, and actually there's predictions going back to 2005 on there as well. We talked about some of them. I mentioned on there that Canada would slip by the recession and that the States would be slowing down. Other economies would still be picking and doing well. Well, everything factually came through. Canada has not really touched upon a recession whatsoever. There's some that say we have, but we haven't. The numbers in the stock markets and everything are reflective that, sure, we dropped, but they are still standard. Job rates were up last month. You look at stuff like that. I'm predicting that just at the end of the first quarter, mid-second quarter, we're out of this dump that we're in, and things will start to pick up once more. People are sitting there losing jobs in the States and by the tens of thousands. And, this is just temporary, very temporary. And we will get back to normalcy and the normalcy of living life again and being prosper.
Funny how the media kind of pushes a negative image a lot, eh? In people's
They
heads
do.
And making people, that's one thing I noticed big time.
Well, I think they want to instill fear amongst the public, because it's easy to control when people are afraid, and that's probably why.
Absolutely.
Yeah. As long as people open their eyes and don't believe everything they hear.
Yeah, exactly.
Keep an open mind, and
Also, I had a question. If you had an ability or a possibility to work with somebody famous, I'm sure you have already, but who would be the ultimate person you can work with, to solve their problem or whatever? I've
got a lot of award-winning screenwriter Gloria Shepherd. I've worked with her.
Right.
I've worked with we all know the old rock band Toronto.
Yes.
Holly Woods is a great friend of mine. We speak often. Talking about stars and people. Loretta Lynn. Spoke to her on the phone. I was to do a special with her back last Halloween, and what transpired was I was actually somewhere else at the time. I was in New Orleans and doing this tour stop, and then what happened, Alan Jackson was to be there, Tanya Tucker was to be there, Reba was to be there, and then the word got out that I was coming to do her ranch, and more people wanted to come, Dolly and what have you, down the line. So she said that everybody had family, and Halloween was a bad time, we'll put it off, we'll do it some other time. I agreed, and I'm talking to Patsy Lynn, her daughter, and we agreed to put it off. Well, time came, I got a little bit busy, and then they gave the green light to James Van Prague. Well, that was good. He went and did the special. It was on ET, and, they aired it, I think, on some travel channel. But, just knowing that they picked up the phone and called me first was something else. I look at that, and I wish I could work with her. She's a beautiful lady. Like I said, we talked about Johnny Cash. We talked about kids bringing dirt in the house. She's down to earth. She's just, at 72, she's a wild, wild, beautiful lady.
Yep.
And, love her to bits. Looking at the different people, Margaret Wendt, Emmy Award-winning film producer, Margaret Wendt called me up back in 2004, and she said that she wanted me to come to L.A. and do 3 spots for Crossing Over. And I said, what do you mean, John Show? And she said, oh, we fired him. We got rid of him. And we want you to come and do 3 spots. Well, the story is why that show's not on no more, is that he had a conflict with Margaret Wendt, and he wanted to do radio. She didn't like the fact that he wanted to branch out and do something different, went against the contract, and therefore there's no more Crossing Over. Now, a lot of people don't know that, but that's the truth. I didn't want to go to L.A. and do the show. She said, well, Hearst Productions are having another program. It's called Dining with the Dead. You, Van Prague, and somebody else will sit at the table, eat dinner, and channel in dead spirits. And I said, that ain't what I do.
Right.
It's too carnivalish. And then she said, well, let's do crime dating back 100 years. You solve crime and yada, yada, yada. And I said, well, I'm doing that now, and I don't need a show to do it. I do it now.
Mm-hmm.
So we ended up doing practically nothing about it, and Ariel White, Hearst Productions, they had a show all ready to go. We couldn't come to terms, but, working with people who are what people label superstars or very famous, it doesn't matter. Everybody's famous. Everybody's superstars in my eyes.
That's an amazing point. I just wanted to get your take on this whole 2012 enlightenment. Do you feel it, anything sticking out to you, or is it just, a message for people to actually consider and change within themselves first before a global awakening?
Yeah, I'm going to take you guys back to year 1000 and 1100. Right. People were naive and, let's say, anxiety set in because they thought the world was going to end back then. A lot of people ended up giving their land and houses back to the crown because they wanted money and spend it, furiously to live life and live at the last moment type thing, And sure enough, 1100 came around, 1101 came around, and those people were without land and property and, became the poor, right? So you look at it, people put too much emphasis on the negativity. I've seen past 2012. I've seen past into a lot of different things that you see now happening. Again, if you read the predictions in 2005, there's a lot of that has come true now, and we're sitting on a pond of abundant, of loving and giving. The number 2012, I know people talk about the Mayan calendar and everything and how exact it is and whatnot, but okay, let's go back into the calendar of all the stuff they were wrong at too. Let's go back and take a look at Nostradamus and everything that he was wrong at. You only give, again, power to what that is, and you establish this foundation of false beliefhood. And if you think that 2012 is the end of the world or an awakening or something like that, then so be it. But I'm going to wake up 2012 and carry on and continue working.
Great point. Plus, I also have this kind of mini theory that each person can change, their own reality and their own destiny, as you mentioned earlier, and cause a kink in the chain, and that way nothing is set in stone. There's so many multiple possibilities. You can't really rely on a specific date.
Right, and we all know this. It's a famous quote. Everybody knows it. There's only one person or spirit who's ever said it. You'll never know the time, but the time is not yours to know, and that was God. He's not going to say, okay, folks, you're going to die now, and it's 2009. You got 12 hours. He's not going to do that. It's not up to us. Again, people put too much weight, too much emphasis on the negativity in life. They spend more time of their day living somebody else's worry and misery, and they put it on their shoulders and it becomes them, and yet all the good stuff passes them by. I don't understand that.
So I guess
you're right about
believe
that.
in that mass consciousness phenomenon then? The more people that think positive could maybe affect the outcome of, certain events or the future?
The power in prayer, I believe in.
Yeah.
I believe in the power of consciousness for the right of good. I don't believe in the power of consciousness for the weight of putting burden on people's shoulders. Again, you give power to something and you believe it, it's going to over and consume you because it's your own manifested thought. People manifest thought and put theory into themselves, and this creates the premise of everything negative. If we take that one moment and just shelter ourselves from that, let's call it evilness, and just look at the good, there's more good in this world than there is bad. And if we took the reality of this is people say, well, look at the wars and stuff going on. Sure, news is built on fear. And if we watch the news channels all the time and watch all the negativity in the world, we think the world's coming to an end. I bet you if we turned it around, put all the good stuff on TV, nobody would ever watch it.
That's true.
Yeah, exactly.
No, I can totally understand what you're saying, and you could break it down to something like a hypochondriac. They always think they're sick, they're going to be sick.
Sure.
That's probably the easiest way to look at that.
Absolutely. There's a lot of money to be made in snake oil, my friends.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
Let me ask you, what's your future goals, though? What would you like to accomplish that you haven't done yet? You're such a busy man, and I don't even know how you find time for yourself. But what do you want to accomplish, for your legacy, to have people look back and say, you know what, that is what Robbie Thomas is all about?
I want people to not just, I don't want them to look at me and say that's what Robbie Thomas is all about. I want them to say that, boy, Robbie Thomas is right. We're all equal in this world. And, I want to start living my life and stop hindering things and become more beautiful. And that's what it's all about. It's true. That's what, live your life fully each and every day because you only get that day to do it in, and then you're on to the next one. So it's not about being famous. It's not about being wealthy. It's not about being, got 100 books out there or I've done, 50 movies, or I'm just going to continue doing that. That's just my work, my passion to do that, to bring the Word of God and Spirit to everybody, and the premise that you count, because they're watching you, and them being your loved ones on the other side. The whole premise of Dead Whisper, where it was the very first time communication with the other side caught in tangent. Not just, are you here? And they go, yes, and you go on to the next question, where are you? It was in tangent. We were talking, and it was caught on film. I was saying, I'm holding her hand, and her name is, and just before I say her name, she says, my name's Linda Morris, and I go, her name's Linda Morris. And I'm hearing what she's saying, so that's just proving the point that they're here. They want to communicate, and they want to let us know that, you're loved. That's the whole premise about it. And, I want everybody to understand that. I know a lot of people do understand that. But that's the whole thing, It's not the legacy of Robbie Thomas. It's the legacy of humanity. And, we live here for a reason. And that's what it is. And let's take everybody else who say that they're aliens and that they're healing the planet and they're living off of stones and all. Let's take all that garbage and throw it out, folks. Let's get back to reality.
That's a very good point. I wanted to ask you, what's your take on ghost orbs? Do you think that people are actually capturing real images on photos and videos, or do you think it's just camera malfunction or something that people can manifest with their own mind power while they're taking pictures?
No, that's a great question, too. I would say 99.999% of it is just ridiculous. You take a look at, the photograph of an orb, moisture, dust, the circumstances in that area, bugs, we're going right down the list, and that's 99.9% of what's going on. Faces, it's funny because the shutter speed on the camera, a lot of people don't understand that you can set the shutter speed on certain cameras, and if you have a slow shutter, and it just so happens that a ray of light is coming from some way and you have a digital camera, well, digital cameras suck in light from all angles, behind you, in front of you, atop you, and everywhere, and you can get the misconception of a photograph and stamp it, and you go, wow, look at that, I just caught a ghost, an impression, or an orb. You have to debunk everything 100% before you sit down and say, okay, out of this millions of pieces of information I got, one might be right.
So there is always hope. And that's an encouraging thing. What's your take on the whole extraterrestrial? Do you believe that there are UFOs visiting Earth, or is that something that you're not really a part of?
No, that I'm glad you brought that up too. I got kicked out of what do you call that, like preschool or daycare type thing. Yeah. I was 2 or 3, and I remember the lady reading the Bible and teaching the stuff out of the Bible. And I said, yeah, what about those other people? And I started talking about the aliens. And I remember getting kicked out, and my grandfather having to come pick me up, and I was crying. And I remember him getting me a balloon and bringing me home to my mother. And then I'd sit there, with my mom, and I would talk about it. And, there are others out there, we're not alone. It's obvious. Even till today, it's very obvious. The world and the universe is huge. We weren't the very first to be made, and we're not the last.
I completely agree.
Yeah,
that's probably the best way to say it.
Yeah. We've even seen strange things we can't dismiss.
Absolutely.
So, yeah, that's for sure. That's what kind of steered me in this direction, the whole paranormal thing too, from a younger age. So, yeah. I think something more is out there, and people just got to look up, like I always say, and keep an open mind, You never know what you'll see.
That's the main thing. You have to be aware of your surroundings and what's above you and beside you and all around you.
If you're closed-minded to it, you most likely won't see anything at all.
So true.
Yeah.
And, only the blind man becomes more blinder and then without sight. And saying that, he'll live his life in the fashion that he lives, which is nothingness. So if you want to open up to what's more out there, please do so, because you know what? I'll tell you the secret of everything. In the very end, those people who live that sheltered life, they're always reaching out. Please, God, take me.
That's right. You are so right. At the end of it all, they beg for help from God.
Mm-hmm.
And I can really see why you have such a following, because you are definitely an excellent guest and such an easy interview, and it's been really, a complete honor to have this conversation with you. And I really hope that in the future we can combine for some major projects of our own as well.
Absolutely. And speaking of projects, international ghost hunter star Brian Harnois and myself, we're doing the Shanley Hotel in New York, which will be we're hoping to be the very first pilot of our new television series, and that'll be at the end of March. I'll be in Boston on the Salem. The ship, the Salem, will be televised sci-fi with Mass Paranormal, myself going through the ship, and also the Paracon. We're talking about that. I'm filming the movie The Henryton in February. Brian will be the lead scientific side of it. I'll be the lead in front of the camera as the medium. I'm also producing and directing it. It's going to be a different type of movie. The Paranormal's never seen anything like this. It's going to have reflective points with real actors. It's based on one of the very first African-American insane asylums where they tortured and literally were monsters to these beautiful people, and we're going to bring the truth out. We got the state behind us. We got the law enforcement behind us. This is going to be a huge event. Starts filming the end of February. I sit there and I look at the company I keep and the beautiful people that are around. The sci-fi was after this, arts and entertainment was after this, and I got the call. So I love it.
That's absolutely amazing.
That's great.
Definitely, you've got your foot where it needs to be, and it's just outstanding. As a fellow Canadian, I'm extremely proud to say that I've had this interview with you. What's
No, thank you.
What's your minimal goal though? Like, what would you like to do outside of this all? And what do you do for downtime? In other words, you just sit around and talk to friends, or you're a regular guy, and can you give some insight to what you do in your everyday type life? Yeah,
well, downtime. I got a new book coming out called Paranormal Encounters in the beginning of the year. And I look at the movies and the scripts I've been writing and the television shows and everything I've done. I average about 5 shows a week. I look at downtime, and the little time I do get, I spend with my children and my wife, and go from there. I just go. And if you want things accomplished in life, you do it. It doesn't come to you. You got to act upon it and make it work. Yeah. There's a lot of people out there who I give guidance to, and they say, how come I can't get there? And I said, well, you got to get off that couch. You got to make things work. If you don't do it, it's not going to do it for you.
Yeah.
You're a definite Type A personality, yeah. And that's what brings success too, because
you're living your passion. You're doing something you enjoy as well. So.
That's absolutely, absolutely. My short-term goal. I'm going to give you guys a case I worked on. There was a producer missing for one of the world's largest radio programs, the X Zone. I got the call from one of the producers there saying that Corey was missing. They had a missing persons report in Hamilton County, Florida. He was missing for over a week, and they had 2. Now you asked me that question earlier, will I work with any other psychics or people who say they're remote viewers? Well, these were 2 well-known people, and they said, one said he was shot and dead in a hotel. Another one said he was in water, drowned. When they heard my answer, they laughed at me, and I said, no, he'll call you in 3 days. He's really alive. He's not in Florida, but he's like somewhere like Oklahoma, and he's really mad at you guys because you passed him up for a promotion. Well, they kind of giggled, and they said, Rob, thank you, but, we heard from so-and-so and so-and-so. And I'm looking at the letter right now. It's on my wall, guys, and it says, thank you, Robbie, you're an angel, and you're exactly right. And so 3 days later, he did call. He was mad that I passed him up for a promotion, and he was in Oklahoma. So there's a difference when you ask me that question, and that's a happy ending. We found somebody alive, So my short-term goal is I want to establish where people can call me on time. I don't like being called at the end when they know that the person's dead and we're looking for the murderer or something. I want to be able to, help out in a stronger way. That's my goal.
Yeah, try to prevent something.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's great.
Well, we're nearing 9 minutes to go in this very fast hour. We were supposed to have 2 other guests, but this interview's been more than compelling, and I'd like to apologize to them, but we will have episode 6 in the very near future, and if they don't mind, if it's all right with them, we will definitely arrange it so they can come for episode 6. Is there any people out there, Robbie, that you would like to say a quick hello to that might have caught the show or might catch the show in the future?
Absolutely. Brian Harnois, I know he'd be tuning in. His wife will be there. I know Stephen Ray Bell. He'll be tuning in. I spoke to him this morning. Hello, Stephen. You know he's a great guy. He really is. Everybody who's tuning in from other radio shows, or who will be listening to the podcast, because I know they will. You know who you all are, and God bless you all. Keep up the great work. I get all your letters, and I know it's hard for me to get back to everybody all at once, but I do get back to everybody, and God bless everyone.
Well, I can't thank you enough for being a part of our show. Again, Robbie, I really am honored to meet you, and it might sound like I keep saying that, but it's true. I really feel this, extreme connection to you as if I've known you for quite some time, which I don't know if that sounds strange or not, but, that's the impression I'm receiving from you.
Oh, well, thank you, and likewise.
Yeah. And I hope, I hope we did a good interview in your eyes, and I'd like to, touch base with you in the future, as I said, and work on some major projects.
Absolutely. We'll do something for the Torontonians.
Sounds good.
Let's get something for Toronto, and let's do it.
Let's do it. Sounds good. Well, is there any closing thoughts that you wanted to say before we start to do our little downtime here?
Yes, absolutely. Folks, keep your eyes open for Robbie Thomas Visits the Sallie House. The movie will be out very shortly. Should be on A&E. Also, Paradox, my movie I just finished shooting in Sarnia, Ontario. That will be out in 2009. Got a lot of great actors, people who starred with Roddy Piper, Nick Mancuso. You can check that out by going to Paradox with an X and the search bar of YouTube and put in Paradox Robbie Thomas. There's 3 teaser trailers there. Also, my new book coming out, Paranormal Encounters. It deals with behind the scenes of Dead Whisper the movie, the Sallie House movie, Perryville Battlefield, New Orleans. It's got a lot of places that you'll see what I've seen through my eyes, the demeanor of people that was left on the cutting room floor of these movies, and very creepy, very eerie things. It's all in that book. I tell it like it is. Also, check out the rest of my books on Amazon, Borders, or chapters.ca for Canada, and you'll punch in my name, Robbie Thomas, under the author, and there's 3 of them: Signs from Heaven, A Link to Heaven, Chats with the Other Side, and To You from Spirit. And I thank you guys from the bottom of my heart to have me on your show. It was a complete pleasure. You have a wonderful demeanor, and I really thank you.
I thank you too, and I also wish that you have a Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, and God bless to you and your family and everyone that's important to you. And keep in touch.
I will. Thank you so much, guys. God bless you.
Thank you. Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas. Bye-bye now.
Merry Christmas. Bye. Well, that was an amazing interview, and I'd like to give our welcome and thanks to also our Facebook group. I hope that the majority of you got a chance to listen to the live show. If not, you can always catch the replay. Also want to say a quick hello to the YouTube network, Paranormal Guys Inc. We have a page there. And Blog Talk community, thank you for joining us as well. And just want to quickly say, I know this is not the most important thing, but if you're stuck for a Christmas gift and you're looking for something that's a little bit out of the ordinary and unique, check out my website, paranormalguys.weebly.com, and you'll see that we have products. We offer a variety of products, and it might be a good stocking stuffer. Also, I've written numerous articles in the last little while. You can check that out on Now Public. And Derek, do do you have anything you want to discuss?
Well, I just wanted basically to wish everybody out there, all our faithful and listeners out there that have been supporting us and being there with us from the beginning. Just wanted to wish you guys, hopefully you have a great holidays, and wanted to wish you guys all the best, and thanks for your support.
Yeah, I completely would like to wish people as well happy holidays, whatever practice you're observing. You know, it doesn't have to be exclusively the mainstream ones, but
exactly,
whatever makes you know, everybody happy during this holiday season. And also too, we'd like to let everyone know that our little production of our paranormal project is still underway, and we'll have some exciting news about that in the spring. And be sure to check out the Paranormal Guys experiment video on YouTube. Just a little questionnaire that I posted. If you have any thoughts on what you consider paranormal, and you want to, you know, go into detail about it, send me a video through YouTube, and we're going to put something together with that as well. And we have now 3 minutes left. So what I'd like to do too is just say thanks again. And Robbie, it was an amazing interview, and we look forward to doing something in the future.
Most definitely, that'd be great, eh?
Without a doubt. Without a doubt.